Welcome to Flagon Talk, where we're a weekly podcast where a few random people get together, talk all things tabletop RPG, and answer questions about D&D and other related games. Today's topic is recommendations for both players and DMs. I'm Lao Feng Seo, and I'm joined by...
Friendly Neighborhood DM.
Alright, and yeah, so we're basically going to answer some questions that were given to us from members of the Dungeons & Flagons Discord. So any websites or anything where we'll be referencing during this video, we'll put down in the description so you guys can look at that. All right. So first question. First question comes from basically kind of two people, honestly. We have Cactus and the Clucking Chicken, where they both kind of ask, what is the best race and classes that you think is most agreeable for friendly to new players? Or what is best, or of course, what is best to everyone else. This is a real, having played every single class, it's a really tough question to ask or in to answer, because you basically
you have your favorites, you have your babies.
Yeah, everyone has their favorite class and everyone has their favorite race, and sometimes they work together. Basically, for those of you who might be watching that know nothing about RPG systems, a lot of times, typically, races are basically, are you an elf, are you an orc, or human? Are you like a scion? Basically, what powers you might have just from background and things like that, and then what your class is basically kind of what you do for the game. Specifically for 5th edition D&D, I kind of say you're 80% your class, and like the rest of it is like your race and background. So that's kind of my personal opinion of it.
I mean, I guess my biggest thing is for new players, I definitely would say no magic heavy classes. So wizard, sorcerer, I wouldn't even touch warlock because warlock is a baby of its own. But my biggest thing is, and I always say this to people who sign up for my games, I say play what you want to play. And I know that sounds really stupid and really abstract, because the thing is best for new players is very abstract. What is best for one player may not be best for another. New players definitely should sit down with their DM, or if you're at a store or on an online server, somebody who can explain to you the archetypes kind of give it into context of what sort of archetypes you enjoy playing in other games. And that can easily be broken down into 3 categories: tank, DPS, healer. A tank basically is the guy who holds the front line, basically is the meat shield, doesn't do anything. I mean, very low damage, although tanks can be damage healers too. But
it's hard to kill you.
Yeah, it's hard to kill you, basically. DPS, you guys are the ones doing the main damage. You're the controllers. You're the firefighters. You're the ones that are doing the bulk majority of the damage. And healers, you're keeping everybody alive.
Yeah, keeping everyone alive, and a lot, especially if you're some sort of maybe a caster, you're doing stuff to benefit the party, not basically you're just doing all that. So and then the big thing is kind of going what you said of how, when in doubt, if you really want to play caster, for example, you really like the idea of I'm not for super familiar, but maybe a character from the Dresden Files. I'm blanking on the primary character's name, but I know he's a wizard or sorcerer or something like that. But it's someone's oh, I really like that idea of playing him, and like I said, you got new players can play spellcasters, or basically, especially in D&D. We're not saying that, it's just the system is a little weird, so always sit down and ask someone how it is, because like any game, the higher level you are is when you can do more powerful stuff. So just be aware of, if you're starting a low level, you can't summon meteors from the sky and conjure unicorns out of nothing you can't really do that, but you can work your way up to that.
Yeah,
So
and the biggest thing too is when you play video games,
video games.
video games, uh, or video games, or watch a TV show, or play another tabletop game. What is the class that you like to play? Tell who is ever helping you make your character. Tell them that, and then they can easily then say, okay, you like let's say, okay, I'm going to give an example. Legolas from Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
You
I get that a
really
lot.
identify with Legolas.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, Orlando Bloom, and the way that like they made him look like a badass in the movies. Shooting arrows as he's sliding down the.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you identify with Legolas, and you want to play Legolas. Well, your DM or whoever is helping you make your character at the time can be like, okay, this is how we can help you do that in the context of the game that you are playing.
Yeah.
But giving examples is the best way for you to, because yes, we could tell you that a generic fighter is going to be the easiest, but will you have the most fun? I'm not saying that. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, not everybody wants to play the fighter. And yes, the fighter is the easiest, but are you going to have the most fun? So it's a balancing act, I think, between easiest and what you enjoy, and you have to find that very happy medium, sort of middle ground.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't really have much, I'm pretty like I'll try to find it and put it on down in the description. But I think D&D worked with this website called Lucid Chart, which basically makes diagrams. So they have a really entertaining just diagram of like, if you don't really know, I just go through this, and even though it's kind of humorous, it actually does give you a good idea of basically how you want to play. Like, literally, the first question is, how do you react to how would your character react to danger? Do you not mind charging in, or you kind of like to deal with the safe distance? And literally answering that question literally splits everything down into half. Now you're only dealing with, rather than 12 classes specifically in D&D, you're now only dealing with maybe about 6. So when in doubt, like I said, give examples. But I guess now to kind of get to the actually answer the question, I personally think my favorite is that I think the easiest but also still really fun class combo with me personally, especially for 5th edition D&D, is a half-orc fighter. I love fighters. They're my favorite class. The main reason I love fighters is because they are versatile. You can do whatever you want in a fighter. If you want to be Legolas wielding 2 swords and shooting a bow, you can do it with a fighter. You want to be Gimli with a giant axe going around hitting things, you can do it with a fighter. Like, I love fighters because for new players is because you can just do whatever you want with them. Like,
and why the half orc? Why give that race?
So the reason I like half orc, I'm sticking to races with Player's Handbook because I don't want to assume like, well, this race in the other book is good. But the reason I like half orcs is because they kind of make good strength based fighters. They have good constitution, they good strength.
Mm-hmm.
They're so having that makes you a little bit you don't die as easy, which is nice. And the half orc thing is there's 2 abilities that half orcs like or have that I really like. One is called Relentless Endurance, which is basically when you would die, you instead stay up at 1 hit point. It allows you for that moment of, especially if you're a new player, you kind of run in, trigger a trap, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't know glyphal wardings were a thing. You're not gonna fall unconscious to start dying. Because it has the ability that once per day you can kind of survive a hit, and it kind of makes you feel like a badass. You basically like an ogre smashed you in the face, and everybody else would basically go unconscious, but you get back up, put your axe to the ground, spit blood in his face, he'd be like, I'm coming for you. I feel like that's a really awesome thing. And another thing is half-orc half-orcs have a really cool ability called Savage Attack, which is for games like D&D or D&D specifically. When you critically hit, it is satisfying. You basically roll double damage, and it's automatically hit. Half-orcs, they hit harder. Basically, whenever you critically hit, you basically roll more dice, which makes the critical, basically shows how awesome critical hits can be. And also, kind of going back to the fighter thing, the reason I like fighters, especially at level 1, is they're one of the few classes that have healing abilities at level 1. Specifically, they have an ability called Second Wind, which is you roll a 10-sided dice, you add your fighter level, and you gain that much healing. It's a quick action or bonus action, basically what edition you're playing. And you basically can heal a little bit and to continue on your turn. And it's an ability that comes back very frequently, and the healing you get is honestly, it's a good chunk of healing. So
isn't it a D10 plus your fighter level, I believe?
Yeah, D10 plus your fighter level, which as a fighter you have somewhere probably between 9 and 15 hit points at level 1, but depending on how good your constitution is. So fighters, they have the reason I like them, they have good constitution, so you can take a couple hits and not instantly go down. The super versatility, because you can just kind of do whatever you want with them. And they have, especially the first and second level abilities, are some of the most sought after and I think easy to understand abilities in the game. And that's personally for me. I could go to my favorite caster, but Friendly, I'm curious, what's your favorite class combination to suggest to new players is?
So new players, I'm a bard person myself. We're going to get into that later in the episode. I do not recommend a bard for as fun as they are. I do not recommend a bard for a first time player. As fun as they are.
Why do you say that? For the person who's currently looking at the bard and is like, wait, what?
I'm not saying, every player is different. Every player, finds
they have too much to juggle, I think.
Yes, it's too much to juggle. You have bards.
Spellcasting.
Bard is what I like to call they are the jack of all trades in classes. Literally and figuratively. They have a ability called jack of all trades. But we'll get into that later. They have so much that you have to micromanage. As a new player, I feel like that is asking you a little too much, I guess.
So I guess there's probably someone in the comments right now, but like I really like casters, or like I like playing spellcasters or mages.
Yeah.
What caster would you suggest?
I would, I'd actually go with a druid.
Really?
I know that sounds a little bit weird, but like a fighter, a druid can be sustainable. Not in the same way as a fighter can, but at lower levels you have, I believe it is at second level you get your wild shape, not first. So yes.
You can turn into bears.
Yeah, you can turn into bears. Wild shape is amazing. So, like a fighter who has a pretty good well of HP, you can turn into an animal, which is pretty fun. You have the best thing about I think about if I was going to be a new player and I was going to pick a class, I would definitely, I had to pick a spellcaster. I would pick one that had their full list available to them. And
really?
I know that may sound intimidating, but I feel like instead of you having to make the hard decisions early on about what you want to take, I feel like allowing you to be able to basically pick at every long rest to swap out spells allows you to try out a variety of spells. Whereas if you are a wizard or a sorcerer or a bard or a warlock, you are locked into those spells for an entire level and can't really swap anything out. Versus a cleric, a paladin, a ranger. We're not going to get into half casters because that is a whole new ballgame.
And that's something else. Even though paladin and ranger seem really cool, I would suggest, especially to players who are going to play at first level, I'd say half casters are weird, but it's kind of like some people like rangers is really appealing. But whenever I see someone play a ranger, I'm like, why do you want to play ranger? And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I want to be like Legolas and shoot a bow. I'm like, You can do that as a ranger, but
or a rogue.
Yeah, especially but the big thing is with hackcasters, which I advise people not starting off with them, is you gain spells at half. Basically, you're like for a little bit, especially early levels, you feel like you're like not quite as good as other classes. Like Ranger specifically, level 1, you're kind of a crappy fighter or rogue. Level 2, oh yeah, you have spells now, but you have like one less spell than everyone else. But granted, they can do all that. I like the druid option because because the big thing, especially I always find weird about new players or for new players is especially try to pick something that doesn't have a lot at level 1, especially if you're playing low levels. Not a lot at level 1 or level 2. Like wizards. Level 1 is, I think, kind of fine, but once you get to level 2, you have to make your big decision of like what type of wizard you are. Clerics, I love clerics, but at level 1, you lose like, oh, here are 10 types of clerics. Pick one. Which one's good?
Yep.
I don't know.
Druid, I like Druid because, like I said, going back to the spellbook thing, they get their entire list. And again, that may seem very, very intimidating. But the best thing is that you get to play test. You don't have to wait that level to swap out spells. You get to choose, or be like a wizard where you literally just pick your spells, and unless you come across another ones, you are locked into those spells. And it allows you. It's a very gradual sort of accumulation of what you want to do. Level 1, you're primarily a spellcaster. Level 2, you start getting a little bit more fun. You get to start wild shaping into animals, which is really cool, and allows a little bit more versatility. And it isn't until level 3, where Lau was talking about the picking between types.
I think druids pick their type at level 2.
No, I believe they pick at 3, but I may be wrong.
I don't. The comments are correcting us.
Yes, the comments are totally correcting us right now, and we will. No. Yeah, we will.
No, yeah, but either way, like I said, I do like it too, because the big thing is druids. Like, also they're one of the few casters that actually can wear armor, so you can actually you don't feel squishy. I feel as druids, you definitely don't feel squishy. And the big thing is, if you're like really, especially if you're from a home game and you're really interested in playing a druid, and the DM's like is he trying to explain the subclasses to you, and you're unsure like which ones you like, especially from the player's handbook, which is the spellcaster druid, also known as land druids, or the wild shape druid is also known as moon druids. One rule I enact in a home game, which I talk to your DM, pick. The DM will know this, but pick a challenge rating 1 creature, which is, or no, so not challenge rating, challenge rating 0 creature, a really weak creature, and be like, hey DM, at level 1, can I turn into this? And that just kind of gives you a feel of like, basically level 1 gives you a feel of like, do I like turning into this animal more, or do I like turning into, or do I like casting spells more? And and don't worry if those of you are like I said, if you make the decision, like there's like I do agree. The big thing about druids is druids can do everything. Like druids can tank, druids can heal, druids can cast spells and blow people up. Like they can kind of can do everything without the mass just basically text dump that you would get with a cleric.
Yep. So and the cool thing is again, we're assuming that you just have player's handbook when we give these tips because of course we're mainly, at least these first few episodes, we're catering to new players, or at least players who don't have as much experience. But if you do have a chance to pick up Xanthar's Guide to Everything, one of my favorite books that has been released was released last November. Love it to death. It's an amazing supplement to D&D. One of the best things that I think that they put in Xanthar's was actually for druids. For new players especially, I think this is an amazing resource because it has, depending on where you grew up, it has a recommended list of wild shapes that your character would know.
Oh my god, I love it.
And and it really, like I said, it is a very good. If if I had to recommend, besides getting Player's Handbook, if I had to recommend another player source for you to get, it would be Xanthars.
Yeah.
Just because not only does it have that, but it has This Is Your Life, which is another really great character builder. We'll get into that more. But primarily because, like I said, I recommend Druids as the caster class. It allows you to pick from, like, say your character grew up on the coast. Well, here is a list of coastal creatures that your character would have seen, ergo would know how to transform into, because one of the downsides of Wild Shape, it is an incredibly and powerful ability, but its one downside, unlike Polymorph, is that you need to see that creature to be able to transform into it.
And some DMs a little bit more lenient on others, but like it's I say like, and of course, but like Druids are great. So I definitely say that is, like I said, I agree completely. Actually, talking about this, I agree completely now, because Druid gives you that taste of being a spellcaster without the, I can say, squishiness of other things. It gives you a mixed bag.
And it's not a full commitment. Because if you don't like the spellcasting aspect of it, then you can say, well, I'm going to be a druid, but I'm just going to wild shape. Or I'm going to be a druid, and I'm going to hit things with my wooden staff and cast Shillelagh and go to town. You don't have to take the magic route.
When in doubt, you can just do all that. But I guess friendly, so a lot of people would probably be like, oh, you reference all these books, but I don't like reading, or I just have access to maybe like the basic rules, but I still kind of want to get like more information on like kind of a little more understanding of the game, especially I guess when as a DM, you may not necessarily have access to the the Dungeon Master's Guide, also known as the DMG, but you still want ideas and like how to potentially build your own world. Do you have any places you would recommend for that? Okay, we're transition to question 2.
Oh, yeah. So, question 2. Question 2 comes from Cactus as well. Question 2 says, what series of videos, or online D&D series would you recommend as far as a good gaming mechanic introduction? A lot of what I learned how to play D&D, probably not the best source, but it got me addicted, was Critical Role. Again, we're not sponsored by them, but
I say that is definitely a good way to see what a long-term gaming group can become, and especially a lot of people who like to stay in character. But I guess that is definitely a big thing.
Although I will say, as a caveat to that, do not expect going into D&D, playing it personally yourself, every game to be like Critical Role. There's definitely
was it Adventure Zone? I think is also one of the more popular.
Adventure Zone, Acquisition Inc., Forest Grey, any of the big name D&D games out there. They can most certainly be that, but do not go in with those expectations.
Those people, especially Critical Role. Matthew Mercer has been DMing, I want to say, for 20 years at least, and they're all professional voice actors. So
do not. They have a little extra than what we have. Not saying, but that being said, sort of segue into that. Critical Role has actually come out just recently from the posting of this video. The way that aging works on the internet. A new series called Handbooker Helper. Not hamburger like the Hamburglar from McDonald's, but Handbooker Helper. And basically, it is basically a series that goes through what we've been sort of talking about in this episode, how to set up a character, how to it goes over things
how do dice work,
how do ability scores work. They just came out one talking about the rogue class. So
they're like short, I want to say no more than 5-minute videos that just give you just an introduction or explanation of some aspect of D&D. Like I said, as our current recording of this show, I guess podcast, there's only about 3 episodes out there, but having seen them, like I said, they're little snippets and things like that. So hopefully they'll put on more. But from what they currently have, it's pretty interesting. I guess the big thing is about Critical Roles. Also, another DM, or it's not D&D related thing, I highly recommend, especially for people, especially your spellcasters out there, going back to the previous thing, is the animated spellbook series, which is by Z Bashu. We'll put the link. Yeah, put the link down there. He is a fantastic animator, and he has this entire series of just it's an animated spellbook. They're mostly a lot about spells, but a lot of them are like how to run certain types of games and how certain things work. The one video I always link people to is how do spell slots work, because that's the most confusing thing for spellcasters. Like, wait, I'm a 3rd level wizard. What do you mean I don't get access to 3rd level spells?
Basically, yeah, that is. Especially when you get into multi-classing, because then that just...
I haven't done that yet, and I'm not looking forward to multi-classing into spellcasters. It's so confusing. But yeah, he has a lot of anime, especially for those of you who like maybe want to understand like how certain spells work, because a lot of times there are certain spells like, okay, this spell has a wording that's very similar to a bunch of other stuff. He has a couple spell examples like that, and my favorite thing about especially with a lot more of his recent videos is he gives like, hey, this happened in my home game, and then he focuses on the spell. So you can also see how, especially with like the spell, like the spell haste or something like that, or fireball or something like that. He was like, describe like, we use this in my game, and he gives a very detailed explanation on like, especially how some of the stuff he talks about is spells that people are like, this spell is garbage, and he's like, oh no, this is the best spell in the game. So that is definitely something for those of you who are a little bit more spellcastery, looking into like understanding a little bit more, but kind of going into mechanics, especially for DMs. The Geek and Sundry's run of GM tips is what I basically watched in order to understand a little bit more of the mechanics that aren't necessarily written down in the game, like how do you run a good narrative, how do you design combat, especially, and really important is how to deal with player death. I want to say the first 14 to 20 episodes, I honestly don't remember, are run by Matt Mercer of Critical Role fame, and the later episodes, I believe, are run by Satine Phoenix, who I think is the current community manager over at D&D.
She's also one of the DMs for Maze Arcana as well.
Yeah, so basically, I recommend that GM Tips, really good series for GMs and DMs out there, because each episode focuses on an aspect of play and shows you how you can potentially like run it, and gives you a lot of good examples upon that. And like I said, these are all online series that we think would be good game mechanics introduction. But like I said, rules are rules. Like it's a lot of times you sometimes just got to sit down and read some books.
Honestly, sometimes you just have to sit down and play the game. That being said, there is one more that I would recommend. It's something. It's not necessarily DM tips or D&D beginner stuff, but they also offer this YouTube channel offers. It's called Puffin Forest.
I love Puffin Forest.
Now, Puffin Forest, I recently, as in a week ago, 2 weeks ago, found their section recommended to me on YouTube. Had no idea what it was, but it looked interesting. It looked fun. And the reason I recommend Puffin Forest is because the guy who does it, not only are the animations absolutely adorable, but he gives it's not tips in the traditional format.
How do you build off my thing?
Yeah, he gives tips in examples of games that he has played. And I actually think that is a very good teaching mechanic, because you can say this is how you do something, but if you have an example to back it up or a scenario to back it up and are able to show the people like this is how you do it, I think it's almost more valuable. Not saying that, going through the mechanics and sitting down and just sort of digesting the material is also helpful, but examples help too. I really, really believe that. And Puffin Forest, again, it doesn't sound like it has anything D&D RPG related, but if you're a new player and you like a cute little animations and a bit of sometimes dark humor, but it's a good it shows both how things can go, and this person is a DM and a player. So I also find that I think that's a very valuable resource because he gives videos on both sides of the screen. And he did a not spoiling, but one of my favorite videos was when he did a video about when his party was in the Tomb of the Nine Gods. And you know the video I'm talking about as he chuckles in the distance. Not to spoil anything, but he was playing up this big encounter. And it's basically it basically is a video that showcases how you can build up to this moment as a DM and just be ready to unleash it on your players, and it goes pear-shaped by one dice roll. And that is how the dice can go sometimes. I think it is an incredibly informative, hilarious, and just amazing moment of showing you that the dice gods giveth and the dice gods taketh away.
Yeah. And like I said, and some of the people listening might be like, well, like I needed like a specific video explaining like exactly how this is like. It's like when in doubt, like there are a lot of videos out there. You just kind of Google like how do I like, especially like how do I play blank. But I feel like a lot of the stuff you're gonna find, a lot of stuff you're gonna learn a lot from is people giving examples and showing basically how to use it in play. Because once you understand what dice are what and what you can do on your turn, like literally like especially for like Dean's like what like action, bonus action, movement. Once you figure that out, a lot of it's like just kind of looking down and saying, when would I use this? Is a lot of how this would work, and through basically a lot of this stuff online, you can just say like, oh, that's a really cool use of how to use this. Or you can say like, oh, I never thought of using it in this way. And that's, I feel like, because like I said, D&D it's a storytelling game, it's a role-playing game. And the big thing is a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but especially in a lot of these RPGs, if you're playing a home game and there's some mechanic you don't like, change it. If you're as a group, you guys don't like how death saves or like basically death saves for like 5th edition or 3 failures to 3 successes, and you're like, you know what, that doesn't make it as tense enough. Let's change it to 2 instead. And then changing that, and like that's like, and that's the big thing. It's like everything in all these books, they are suggestions. If you want to change something, if you're a DM, let your player know. If you're a player and you like don't like some ability, ask your DM like, hey, I kind of want this, but I don't know if this is the rules don't allow this. When in doubt, talk to everyone you want to see. But like I said, I know like the benefit of how the D&D community right now is there's literally thousands of videos out there that it basically talk about a lot of the same things. So when in doubt, just search around. Literally, just Google like D&D tips or shadow basically like or RPG tips or anything. Just like Google it around, and there'll even be forums or videos or anything online that would be like, hey, this is how this works. Some of them are more podcast format. Some of them are just quick snips. And the question is, how much time you want to spend, and just kind of skim through it. Or literally, it's like, I don't know. All the time when I paint miniatures, I just put on a bunch of these D&D things in the background, and I'm just listening. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool idea. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's how that thing worked. Oh, that's really cool. And I might even just write it down. So when in doubt, just put it in the background. And you pick up something that you'll eventually use.
And as much as videos are helpful, I'm going to say this. There is at the end of the day, you just got to get out there and start playing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, no matter what you're playing, you have to get out there and start playing. And the other biggest thing too is if you're confused on how something works, communication. Can't stress that enough. And explain to your DM, I want to do this thing, and your DM, between you and your DM, you will come up with an idea on how to do the thing. So I mean, it's you got to have that level and that door open always. I believe when it comes to things like that.
Yes.
So let us get to our last question of this.
I'm excited.
Of this, you wanna read the question?
Sure. From user Makanala, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it says, from my experience, bards tend to be the most disliked class, and for all games that I've with GMs previously mentioned, were banned from playing them. From what I see online, I've spotted some dislike for the bards in general as well. They ask us if we have any speculations why the bard class is so disliked.
We can unpack this.
So, I guess very quickly, so we can just kind of get it out of the way. The reason I think bards as generically are not liked is because of the stigma behind them. Specifically, you're the bard, you're the face of the party. You got to be the charismatic person who like flirts with everything and like sings and does all that stuff.
You're the monkey.
You're the dance monkey dance. And from a mechanics perspective, even though I have a bard who's level 14. I love him so much. However, the reason I can say is also a little disliked is the big issue with bards, in my opinion, for 5th edition is almost every single one of their spells requires a save throw. I do not think there's a single bard spell that is, we're not including magical secrets, for those of you who know what that is, but there's not a single bard spell that requires you to make an attack roll. So if you're playing a super combat heavy, like kind of dungeon crawly, or like you're always in combat type game, as a bard, I'm literally like, I'm sitting here, I wait 15 minutes to go around the table, and I'm like, DM, I've cast Vicious Mockery. The DM's like, he succeeds. I'm like, okay. And then I wait another 15 minutes. That's why, from a mechanics perspective, like I said, basically, the social issue that people have with the types of people to play bards, and at least the mechanic issue of their spells are awesome, but their spells they're kind of save or suck spells a lot. So now that's kind of, I've gone through my super quick thing, I guess, friendly. What do you think specifically? Are there any examples of types of bards or types of bards you've run into that are literally like, this is the reason no one likes bards?
I really haven't run into any bards that I've DM'd for or played with that have been super annoying.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about bards is I actually think the one thing that is annoying about them, well, not annoying, but the one thing that I think turns a lot of people off kind of goes back to what you said about them. They are amazing for RP situations, but if you don't have an RP situation, you are kind of shoehorned into the back.
Yeah, I could say
that's from personal experience. I'm currently playing a bard through Curse of Strahd hardcover. He's a Kenku. His name is Akrat, as in Akrat. That's his name. And I love playing Akrat, but I know from a personal experience, and this is me not trying to annoy my party, but I have annoyed my party. Like, I literally try not to annoy my party, but by playing the character, I annoy my party. And I think it's just the mechanic of the bard.
Yeah, it's a lot of their abilities are kind of like, hey, I'm coming in and doing that. Specifically for like in the 5th edition D&D lore bards have this ability called cutting words, which is like the DM's like, oh sweet, I'm gonna get this super awesome attack on. The bard's like, no you don't. What? No you don't. And rolls a dice and says nope. Or it's a lot of like I think the thing with bards is, with a lot of the abilities, give them ability to be kind of good at a lot of things.
They are the jack of all trades.
They are the jack of all trades. They are the only arcane spellcaster that accesses the healing spells, unless you count Celestial Warlocks. We're not counting Celestial Warlocks. Or Divine Soul Sorcerers. but they can kind of do a lot of things, and I feel like a lot of people, like I said, I don't know, a lot of people I know that play bards, they just kind of get like, they say, oh, I'm the bard. I kind of need to do this, or I kind of need to be like super outgoing and extroverted and like kind of cut in and start singing or some of that. Which some people can do that, but like some people, like if they don't, where they don't want like Bill over here just to be like singing like giving on a prayer or living on a prayer for like the third time this session. It's kind of like, I think that's kind of what it is. And also like a lot of classes, it might just attract certain people who are a little bit, maybe can be a little bit more annoying than others.
It is definitely not a class recommended for people who are not gonna want to RP. Do not play a bard if you do not like to RP, because an RP role play. So do not. I mean, there are the silent, strong type bards who are, don't say very much. But it's kind of one of those expectations that a bard walks into a party and he's going to own the room.
Yeah, I think the issue with bard, the issue is in an RP, in a game like this, like D&D, where everyone's basically supposed to be participating in the story. The person who's playing the bard can, and I've had this situation, just kind of over participate, and I think especially a lot of people who might, I don't know, but I know a lot of people I've made bards for, they all kind of play the same, and like everyone, I think for the first time they played a character kind of makes a stereotypical character. Like my first character in 5th edition was a Goliath fighter. So big, meaty tank guy, like super strong, like doesn't really talk a lot. And when I'm my bard, literally my bard's flaw is huge ego, which I want to say is probably 70% of the people who play bards. They're like, oh, my character has a huge ego, or he can't, he slash she slash it cannot resist a pretty face, or maybe this person like always likes to be the center of attention. I think it's just a lot of, especially how like a lot of like the pre-gens and just kind of like stuff that kind of works with bards tends for you to want to be, I kind of want to be the center. And it's like I said, it can be good, can be bad. Just like
the spotlight,
3 bards out there.
Yeah, there's a spotlight that's definitely thrown on you. And going back to my earlier thing about how you can be annoying without meaning or necessarily trying to be annoying. In one of my last sessions, again, I told you I play a Kenku bard. His name is Akrat. And Akrat has a hat of disguise. He also has the actor feat. So I am literally can be anything I want to be, which really works into a Kenku's ability at mimicry. Like, it kind of all works together. So scenario, we were going back to the town, Volaki, to retrieve an elf. Akrat decided to split off from the party and he wanted to go to the church to ask a question about this cursed bird cage that he currently possessed. And so I walk up to the gates of Volaki, and they're closed. And this had never happened before. Like, the gates had always been open. So I cast invisibility on myself, and I decide, I'm going to do the doorbell ditch scenario. You knock on the door, they open it, but instead of ditching, I'm going to just sneak in. So I'm invisible, knock on the door, and the guards are obviously up high enough, and they look and they don't see anybody. They just hear the knock, and they're very confused. So my bard, being my bard, and I love him, decides that while invisible, uses his hat of disguise to turn into Strahd von Zarovich. And I drop the invisibility. And so I literally am demanding entry into this city. I am doing everything that I can, and the dice gods hate me. And I can't get in. Well, cue the party. And I feel like you know where I'm going with this, Lau. I feel like you know where I'm going with this.
I think I do too.
Cue the party coming back from retrieving the elf that we needed. Because I hadn't showed up yet, so they wanted to go see what was up. Showing up. And what do they see? They don't see little Akrat. They see Strahd von Zarovich, standing patiently at the gates of Vallaki.
He's a vampire, for those of you who don't know.
Yes. We're not going to spell too much about it. Cue my party now attempting to attack me.
Yeah.
And now cue me having to literally hold person the barbarian to stop them. But then getting smoted by the paladin and eventually turning invisible and dropping the disguise. But not before raising the entire alarm system on Vallaki. So again, I feel like it's just the nature of the bard class that you're not trying to cause these problems, but problems happen. And problems seem to happen more so often with bards than with any other class.
Yeah, as a bard, you're essentially as a bard, essentially you're I want to say you're a charisma based caster, so that means you essentially have to you're charismatic. You can basically ideally persuade your way through anything, and a lot of times is when people don't want to try to persuade themselves, or to persuade and fail, they keep on trying because they want it to work.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it can become annoying. So yeah. I don't particularly think Malachi.
I would never ban them.
No, I would never ban them from play. My personal philosophy has and always will be play what you want to play.
Yeah.
You know,
and And also ask if your DM says or GM says, "Well, I'm banning bards," ask them why. And it's one of those they had a bad experience with the bard. Maybe say that a situation oh, well, the bard separated themselves from the party and basically got the entire party arrested and or killed because they wanted to go talk. And be like, hey, if you want to play a bard, be understand hey, I hear you, and maybe play a different type of bard. Idea of a bard I had that I think would be hilarious is the mute bard. But how you inspire people is you make paper. Basically, you write notes and throw them at people. Literally, if I was playing this bard in the game, I would literally have compliments and things like that and notes and jokes and ball them up and throw them at players. And they're that's how you do that. And this said, the big thing is this actually kind of goes into a more general thing is every single class has their stereotype of what they kind of are. Barbarian, you're from the forest, raging thing, not from civilization.
You're dumb.
The rogue,
blah, blah, blah.
You're a thief. Blah blah blah. But the thing is, you don't have to be basically the stereotype of the bard. I actually know a guy who was one of my favorite barbarians ever. I want to say the character name was Leon Yan of the Yan family. He was a noble. He is a noble who just had a short temper. Outside of raging, he was the most respectable noble you could ever meet. But when you got him angry, you got him angry.
He was like the Hulk. It was like Bruce Banner Hulk complex.
Yeah, but Bruce Banner, that's basically what it was. Or wizard. Actually, maybe it's a wizard. You don't have to be the snooty, I know everything. Actually, there's a series online that I love. It's called WebDM. Not WebMD, WebDM. And they have an entire series I think they're doing of each different class, and they explain exactly how how you make this class different. My favorite thing they did is a wizard is well, maybe you want to play wizard, but you're playing a barbarian game. Maybe you don't have a spell book. Maybe you just have a bag of bones, and every single morning you throw out your bones, and based off where your bones position themselves is what you just and you do that. It's you can just write it out, flavor up something, just try different. Be the smart barbarian or be the clumsy rogue. Maybe when you as a rogue, when you succeed on a check, it's not that you basically I picked the lock. It's basically you're going through it and you kind of sneeze and sneeze, and then the stifling sneeze caused the lock to unlock. Or the sorcerer, maybe you the wild magic sorcerer, you're not actually controlling your magic. You're just I just kind of move my hands and stuff works. I don't know how it goes, how it does it all. Or
again, well, an example for the bard, going back to Critical Role. One of the newest NPCs that Matt Mercer has created is a turtle bard, who is a stutterer.
Yeah.
And seeing him, I'm not gonna spoil what campaign, what episode, but watching that, and he has bagpipes that are built into his shell, and watching him play, watching him play a stuttering bard, like that is so far from the stereotype.
Yeah. So yeah, if like I said, if you have if you or your DM has issues with a certain type of class, it's just like I say, mix it up. Like it's so much fun to mix it up.
Also, I think from especially what we've been talking about in this episode, communication. Communication is always the key. If you do not communicate with your DM, if your DM does not communicate with you, there's always going to be this wall. And maybe your DM did have a bad experience with bards. I mean, I think we've all had a bad experience with some class along down the road. But show them and be open, be honest, and just show them that you yourself, are going to be respectful, and, let your DM know. Say, hey, if I go too far, if I'm hogging this limelight, if I'm doing whatever I'm doing and you don't like it, let me know. Always have that two lines, that open communication between you and your DM, and these problems won't happen, or most of them won't. You will always have problems. That's the nature of life. But be open, be honest, and just make sure that that you get your point across, but you also listen to what your DM is saying as well.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. Episode 3 will be coming out. We're going to be talking about new player who dis. Another episode catered to the new players
and
new DMs. So maybe it should be new player, new DM who dis. But I've already made the title card, so we're going to stick with it. But
DMs are players. I'm not forgetting.
Yeah, DMs are players too. Yeah. So you guys have a lovely week. We'll catch you next Monday. And may the dice gods be always in your favor.
Bay.